All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Great to see you all here today, sort of almost tonight, right on the cusp of evening. All right, here we go. I'm Joe Tilley, and I'm your MC here for the AGM's On the Right Track annual general meeting for the Bowmanville Hospital Foundation's 2021-22 AGM, leading us to the redevelopment and expansion of the Bowmanville Hospital. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Joe Tilley. I'm a longtime sportscaster from CTV television. All right, I did the sports on CTV for 33 and a half years, anchoring the sports. And since December of 2017, when we had a little retirement at CTV for all the sportscasters across the country, I've been doing my own podcast on the internet. It's called Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. You can see it on Facebook, YouTube. It's also available on iTunes, Spotify, all the podcast networks. So pretty excited about that. Happy to be doing that, and check it out if you have some time. We have some cool guests. Jerry Petrie, I was just telling Chris, Jerry Petrie's a former agent who was agent of the Stars back in the 70s and 80s. Gary Carter, Guy Lafleur, Jean Beliveau, Serge Savard, Scotty Bowman, Howie Meeker, all these people. I had him on the show, and a lot of great stories, a lot of fun. We went Reggie Leach next week, the Riverton Rifle. Don't want to miss that. Anyway, enough about me and my show. I'm here to talk about the exciting news that we have here for Bowmanville Hospital Foundation. During the course of the evening here, we're going to hear from the Bowmanville Hospital Foundation's board chair, Chris Coy, the chief executive officer, Frank Cherisano, treasurer and chair of the Finance, Audit and Risk Committee, incoming board chair, Peter Hobb, campaign chair, campaign chair, Kirk Kemp, campaign chair Kirk Kemp, there we go. Chris and Frank are going to share some of the highlights of the Bowmanville Hospital Foundation's 2021-22 fiscal year. Peter is going to provide a financial overview of the foundation. Kirk is going to give a campaign update as well as present the Canadian Tire recognition. Also very excited to introduce you to Dr. Tony Stone, who is the Chief of Staff and a family physician at Lake Ridge Health. As well, we have the Mayor of Bowmanville, Adrian Foster, joining us today. Mayor of Clarington, I should correct that. Also joining us today, local MPP, just elected, Todd McCarthy. Good to have you here, Todd. Thanks for coming. And lastly, but certainly not least, we will hear from Demi Chalkias, a local race car driver who is really making an incredible name for herself, and we'll hear from Demi a little bit later on. Okay, so we're going to start the program at the beginning here with board chair Chris Coy. Chris, come on up here and give us your welcome and foundation overview. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. It's so nice to actually have meetings that aren't Zoom related anymore. It's nice to see faces, people smiling. It is a warm evening, but the fact that we can all be here together is so worthwhile and very much appreciated that you've all taken the time to come out and be with us tonight. I'm excited to share some of the updates during my last year as chair of the Bowmanville Hospital Foundation. The foundation continues to look ahead at our strategic plan and our fundraising plan for the Bowmanville Hospital. Our strategic plan, Strong, Responsive, Together, lays out our priorities and the roadmap that the foundation is going to be taking over the next 2 years. As we continue to invest more in people, to put into action some new approaches and tools and techniques designed to enhance our programs. This strategy will aid the foundation in reaching the completion of the We Care We Can capital campaign and continue to help us receive funds for the hospital for needed equipment once that campaign is finished. It's important for us to have a program in place so that we can ensure we're raising the funds that are going to be needed to support and expanded, both new and renovated hospital in our growing community. All you need to do is look at between Bowmanville and Newcastle when you drive down here to see another example of the expansion and growth in our community. And all those people will need health care. And when they come to settle in the community, one of the first questions that people ask when they're moving to a community is, what are the hospital facilities? What's the health care like? And our foundation is supporting Lake Ridge and making sure that all the facilities that are going to be available to our community are going to be top-notch and available and accessible to everyone in the future. Bowmanville Hospital Foundation is embarking on the largest campaign in its history. The foundation is working collaboratively with Lake Ridge Health to plan for the Bowmanville expansion and redevelopment. We're now at what they call stage 2 in the planning grant process, and we have support from all levels of government, provincial, federal, and municipal. And now it's time for us to move the campaign forward to the next step, which is getting our community really involved in where we're going to go with fundraising. After the campaign goals are met, the foundation will continue to fundraise for capital equipment, because just because one project is finished doesn't mean that capital equipment won't be needed in the future, and we want to be prepared to meet all those needs as they come forward. As my tenure as board chair comes to an end, I would like to take a moment to recognize the commitment, great work, and involvement of all our current board and committees and all those in the past that have served us so well. Through their incredible dedication, generosity, and passion for our foundation, our hospital, and our community's health care, we have been able to support our hospital and stay on track with our redevelopment goals and objectives and our expansion that we hope to see begin in 2024-25. All of our current board members, Fiona, Peter, Steve, Isabel, Laura, Kristen, Tanya, Rod, Francesco, have been very instrumental in the success that we've had today. Their passion for supporting the hospital and good health care is remarkable. And this year we welcome Byron Kemp to the 2022 board, and we know that he'll bring along a different area of expertise to support the direction that we want to go. And I would be remiss if I didn't take time as outgoing chair to thank Kirk Kemp for all that he is doing and has done in the We Care We Can Capital campaign. It's been a privilege to work with Kirk as my years as foundation chair, and nobody has worked harder and more tirelessly to help us achieve our goals than Kirk has. Thank you, Kirk. Our board is in great hands as I pass the torch on to our incoming chair, Peter Hobb. It has been my great pleasure to work alongside Frank and his team at the foundation. They have continued to show resilience, passion, and dedication during the very difficult time of the pandemic. They've kept the office running from home. They've still met the needs of our community, and they look forward to what is going forward and what challenges are ahead for them. I know they're on the right track, and I know we have a great team working at the foundation to get us where we need to be. Thanks so much for everything that you do. There's been so much change and excitement since I became chair of the foundation, and I think the thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that we did successfully achieve, with working with the hospital, the plans for an implementation and a successful We Care We Can campaign. As a resident of Bowmanville and a former employee of the hospital, and now it is wonderful to see the success that we've had and the dedication to everyone working on this campaign and the excitement out in our community to make sure that we're successful. I have very much enjoyed my time connecting with our community and our community leaders to help move this campaign forward. It's been my privilege to work with all the members of the board and the committee and all the people that have worked so hard on this campaign. And I look forward to seeing that shovel in the ground in 2024 and as I know all of you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. I want to thank you for 7 years of as board chair, the great work you've done on the board and steering this board in the proper direction and keeping things on the right track here. So you've done a fantastic job, and you've left the board in really good shape. And I'm sure that the folks that are taking over are better prepared thanks to the great work that you've done. So thank you so much. Next up, we hear from the Treasurer and Chair of the Finance, Audit and Risk Committee, Peter Hobb. Pete, take it away. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joe. So, get the, were you going to put the slides up, or? No? Okay, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Frank and his team on a successful fundraising year. We raised $2.5 million, that's cash in the bank, and doesn't include the pledges that were received during the year that will be honored in future years and contributing to the campaign for the redevelopment of the hospital. Also, we didn't do, even with the volatility in the markets, we didn't do too badly on our investment portfolio. We did earn approximately $169,000 on interest and dividend income. That's money that came into the bank, and realized gains and losses. With the volatility, however, it has had a slight impact on our portfolio. And with unrealized gains and losses, we're still able to be in the positive after 12 months. So that's something. And we all know with volatility like we're facing now, once we get through that period, the markets will start to march forward again. At least our investment advisor promises me that. Okay, next slide. So our expenditures for the year were $644,000. 63% of that was directly related to activities to raise funds, and the others related to overheads and running the office and keeping everything running smoothly. Next slide. Designated funds are monies that have been received that we have on deposit that are being held for specific purposes. So the largest one, of course, is for the redevelopment of the hospital, approximately $6 million. Also we have approximately $337,000 related to our eye care center. I don't know if you're aware, but our eye care center is very highly regarded and respected for the level of care that they provide and the innovation that they do. And this is just not only in Durham region, it goes beyond the borders of Durham region. Also, we have approximately $66,000 for medical services equipment designated, and equipment for continuing care, palliative care, and other miscellaneous programs of the hospital. Next slide. So your dollars at work, this is money we actually spent on equipment and the redevelopment of the hospital. So the bulk of it, actually $169,000, relates to cardiac equipment, heart monitor equipment, and related software and hardware. We have another $66,000, excuse me, of monies that have been spent for the redevelopment, and then a miscellaneous amount, about $56,000 for included syringe pumps and IV poles for the Bowmanville Hospital. I'd just like to thank our donors, sponsors, and volunteers. The money we raise wouldn't be possible without you. And it really isn't just about the money, it's the inspiration that you provide in inspiring others to get involved. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to Joe.
Thank you, Peter. And, you know, when you consider what's happened in the, you know, with the pandemic and everything else, fantastic job. Everybody involved has done a fantastic job. And, you know, thanks to the community, the board, and everybody for stepping up and during tough times and painting a pretty good picture for us here today. So thank you, Peter, and good luck in your new gig as board chair. Thank you. Next, I'm going to call upon the mayor of Clarington to say a few words. Mayor Foster, if you can. Thank you for being here today. Talk about the redevelopment project. Thank you.
So, Joe, thank you. I've got to tell you, Frank has heard me speak at a number of events. For those of you that know how I do this, I bring few, if any, notes. And I'm pretty sure that keeping it on the right track, I'm putting keeping it on the right track was Frank's idea to keep me on the right track. And then they gave me detailed notes to go through this. So I've got a couple of things to do, and I could literally make a 20-minute or a 30-minute speech out of this. I promise that I will not do that. But the very first and the most dangerous thing that I have to do is to thank people. And the problem with that danger is you will always miss someone. Dr. Stone, if you could please take back to all of your staff the extraordinary lengths that they have gone to keep us safe largely from ourselves during the pandemic. So I have family that are in the health care industry. My sister-in-law is a nurse. I see how tired and frustrated she is. So we are so deeply grateful for the front line and all of the folks in behind that allow the hospitals and the healthcare system to again, keep us safe from ourselves. To each and every one of you, whatever your involvement is, be it on the board as a volunteer, the folks that are coming up with donations, none of this would be possible. And I think we are all brutally aware that the redevelopment is 3 decades, 30 years in the making. Try to imagine what Clarington looked like 30 years ago, the population versus today, and you will understand how desperately needed this is. And you really are bringing the community together in such a fantastic way, and at a time, frankly, when we need exactly that. The other point that they've got is to recognize the 3 levels of government. So Clarington stepped up, and we will be donating $5 million, which is the largest donation that Clarington has ever made. Durham Region, and I can tell you that John Henry and staff, Nancy Taylor, who is the Commissioner of Finance, used to be the treasurer here in Clarington, the largest lump sum that Durham Region has ever made has been put on the table. And then the unwavering support of the provincial government, great announcement last fall. And Todd, would you put your hand up, please? So Todd McCarthy is our MPP for the He's our MPP for the west side of Clarington. We all know David Piccini, and I can tell you that both of these gentlemen are fantastic advocates for Clarington and will continue to be fantastic advocates for the hospital. So we are looking forward to the stresses, the challenges, and the successes that are moving ahead. I can tell you it's been a blast so far. I am looking forward to continuing on this journey. And once again, on behalf of all of Council, I've got to express my deep, deep, deep thanks to all that have brought this about and all that are doing the work that got us this far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Foster. Thank you for all you do. It's awesome. Yeah, so next up I'm going to ask Well, we'll go back into the, okay. Are we ready to, Dr. Stone, are you ready? Okay, all right, here we go. So we're going to ask Dr. Stone, who is the Chief of Staff at Lakeridge Health, to come on up and say a few words. Dr. Stone, thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome. It's great to be here on behalf of Bowmanville Hospital. I just said Bowmanville Hospital, and it's just natural. Lakeridge Hospital, including Bowmanville. And appreciate the opportunity to speak a wee bit about what's happening at Lakeridge and what it means, what it means for all of us in our journey in healthcare together. Before I start, I just want to make 3 comments. First of all, just a big thanks to the effort that Chris and Frank and the whole team on the foundation has given to really, I'd say do the fundraising and how important it is, not just for the hospital, for the people that we serve at the hospital is really what it's all about. And so I just want to say a big thanks. Chris, to you, many of you wouldn't know, Chris and I started working together 30 years ago and spent all kinds of time together clinically and now here. And Chris, all the best in your next chapter. Thank you for all that hard work. And then the other thing, the other point was really, because the slide deck doesn't speak to this, is all about, I was just thinking about the hospital expansion and really what it means for the community, but also for all of Durham, and Lakeridge. We are growing so quickly in Durham and here in Clarington that this expansion will mean a lot, not just for the needs of Clarington, which is primary, but also very much for the needs of all of Durham. Because what we are doing at Lakeridge is really weaving together an integrated health system. And that's integrated among all the hospital sites and integrated with the community. So it's a huge piece of what we want to do, and part of all of Lakeridge's success will be tied to this expansion. So just wanted to mention some of those things. Next slide. The next slide is really an update on COVID. I'm just going to say a few words. Everyone from the hospital is tired of talking about COVID too. It's been a long 2 years, and we're just at the tail end of wave 6, thankfully. It looks like it's going to be a good summer. We don't really know what's going to happen in the fall. There's all kinds of forecasts about what might happen. You'll see the slide itself talks about shifting from the concept of pandemic into endemic, and endemic really means we're living with the virus in our midst all the time. There are a number of other viruses in that family, the coronavirus family, that is similar, and we don't know. So you'll see, depending on what expert you read, no one knows what's going to happen. We certainly hope that the combo of vaccination and the folks who've already gotten infected creates that extra immunity that doesn't cause a big burden on the hospital. Because that really, the bigger that burden is, the more likely we are to see the reintroduction of the public health measures. And all of us, I think, are relieved at the break from it. I'm not going to say any more because I guess we'll find out in the fall, and maybe this summer we'll just have a chance to relax without a mask. Other than, of course, in the hospital, you all know, we look after the sickest and the frailest, and it's all about keeping them safe. It's why they've kept the mask mandate in long-term care and retirement, and recommend it in a number of other settings like that. Next slide. I did mention about masking at the hospital already. Staffing challenges. I would say that this is the biggest and most important fallout from the pandemic. When I think about our staff and how robust it was pre-pandemic and what's happened now, and I'm just going to be straight up with everybody. The pandemic, has played a major role, and I'm going to say an important exodus of key healthcare professionals. all kinds, most especially nurses, above all, but also PSWs. And I would say that the shortage and the gap in nursing coverage is going to be an issue for us at Lakeridge. It's going to be an issue in Ontario, nationally, internationally, for years. Because there's so many who have left who have no intention of returning. And we live it every day. We live it every day in terms of working short of nurses on almost every unit. It makes a difference to the care. And I'm just flagging for you, it's something that we're very mindful of and we're working constantly on, both the recruitment and the retention side. But it's a real thing, and it's going to be important for the next few years. I think you're going to hear more and more about it in a lot of different venues. And I can tell you the team is, though, working tirelessly on solutions. And I think we're going to have to innovate. And it includes what we do in the hospital and then what we do with the community. Next slide. So priorities. What we're trying to do is be a little more pointed in what we're going to focus on. So transforming care through emergency department revitalization. I think I have a slide coming up that talks more about it, but basically, pre-pandemic, all of our ERs together are seeing over 200,000 people a year. People who need care, they need high quality, timely care. And although the numbers dropped off in the first half of the pandemic, they really started to pick up again last summer. And what we've found is that we are really challenged and have been challenged to make sure that we are delivering what the community needs for a number of reasons. One of them is, in particular, is the staffing. But the goal that we've set for ourselves this year is to work to ensure we're delivering the best possible timely care with good access all across all of our emerges, including Bowmanville. And that's going to be what we focus on this year. It's a key focus. It's not just a focus of the ER team, it's the focus of the whole organization. Because it includes, if you think about the ER work, people come there with undifferentiated problems. We need the team to do a good job that's there. And we need all the consultants and all of the organization, the units on the floor who take patients to be equally committed to making sure that our patient care and our patient flow works well there. A quality management system. So we have a new team. I know you've met them all. Besides Cindy, everyone knows Kirsten, and Kirsten, great that you're here. Kirsten Burgomaster, who's our rep in Bowmanville, and she's one of our health system executives. And one of the things that the new team has brought is a commitment to building out a stronger quality management system. The best and leading healthcare organizations really in the world, and particularly in North America, have all implemented this quality management system. We're on that journey. It's early, but it's exciting. And I think it's going to contribute broadly to ongoing improvements in patient care and patient safety. Transforming the experience of our people and teams, I think, has to be an ongoing focus. I told you already about the reality of the pandemic and the fatigue it's caused the team, the loss of parts of the team. We have to get it right to make our hospital a place where people want to come, want to stay, so we can manage our recruitment and retention. Next slide. Just a quick word, we now have a new leader, a new chief of emergency medicine named Dr. Mike Howlett. Mike is a great guy, and Mike is also the leader of the Canadian Association of Emergency Physicians. But most importantly, Mike is an emerge doc with all the right values and the right approach to making sure that as we work through this ED revitalization, we're focused on delivering exceptional care to patients. I think that's the most important part of the slide. Next slide. So IDE, has become, I'm going to say, an important part of the work we're doing at Lakeridge. I'm going to describe it in two ways. We did two major reports. One called the IDE report, which is really an internal report focused on feedback we were getting from our entire workforce. Then our board commissioned an IDEA report, which inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, really to try to speak to and address the issues of the care we deliver across the region. And when you think about what I'll tell you is a major shift that's going on in the health industry is to really embed the ideas of IDE and health equity. And health equity is a big and complex word, but think of it this way. If you live in Clarington, what we need to be committed to, all of us, is to make sure that whether you live out in Newtonville or you live anywhere in Clarington or in Oshawa, you have timely access to the same high quality care. You have timely access to consultants if you need them, and really, when we speak about vulnerable populations or equity deserving communities, that we know the evidence, the research shows that they don't get the same level and same quality of care, and we're focused on making sure that we address that too. So equity has many forms: geographic, cultural, socioeconomic, and it's going to be something we embed in our work. Next slide, the Queens Lake Ridge Collaborative. So this is a really interesting and exciting thing that's happening. We're working with Queens closely, and the government has approved, and Todd, thanks for that, a novel approach to training primary care. So everyone knows the historic approach to training all doctors. You go to medical school, you apply for residency, you go to residency. This new training program we haven't done in Canada yet, which is to combine the training of medical school and residency into a single training program for primary care docs. And there are a lot of neat components to it, including how it is that we engage communities, because this program will be looking to find individuals from communities across Durham, but it'll be broader across all the way from here, stretching out to Kingston, but really to find people who are already committed to primary care, and their training will be focused on making sure they have all the tools they need to work in communities that are underserved or small communities. There's a growing, and there's going to be a growing shortage, I think, of primary care. We're seeing it already. We're certainly seeing it in Durham. And we've already gotten a lot of traction, actually nationally, on this conversation about what it could mean, because we think there's an opportunity here to do something differently, and I can see this really benefiting all of Durham as we advance this training program. So more to come on this. We have a ton of work to do. Our goal is to take applications next spring and to have the first 20 candidates starting their training in September of next year. It's ambitious, and we're hoping we can hit that finish line. So next slide, the heart failure care pilot. I want to frame it this way for you. One of our strategic objectives, a key one, is around health system integration. So we know if you look at what goes on globally, the best and highest performing health systems on the planet who deliver the best patient outcomes from a population health perspective with the lowest per capita cost. Here in Canada or in Ontario, we often run around 10.5, 11% GDP in terms of what healthcare costs. US is way higher. Many countries in Europe are around 10%. NHS in UK is better. I think they're around 8%. And then there's a major, Israel is divided into two major health organizations, and one of them has the best outcomes in the Western world at the lowest per capita cost in the Western world. They do things differently. Part of what they've done, and an important piece, is how they've integrated the health system with a focus on care that goes on in the community. What we see in this project is if you think about care and healthcare that you need and healthcare that we need to deliver, there's an emphasis on the acute care structure and infrastructure. Tons of spending goes on there, importantly, so we're not giving up on that. But really, if you think about a person's journey in their life and their health, their interaction, our focus needs to be on them as people in a journey, and their health care is something that they often don't want in acute care, or they want their acute phase to be as little as possible. When we get it right, what ends up happening is first of all, we avoid admissions. So like in heart failure, this project, the goals include We do such a good job helping people live their best lives with heart failure, including monitoring them. They rarely need an acute hospital stay. If they're in hospital, we can discharge them quickly because we have the structures in the community that ensure that they have really good early follow-up. So when you think about it, if you were living with heart failure, that's exactly what you'd want to hear. You don't need to be hospitalized. If you are, it's brief. We've done other projects just like that. We've just done a major project for total joint replacement where over 30% of our total joint replacements are same day. It's now same day surgery for people who are generally healthy. Another 30% is next day discharge, and there's 40% of people who have more risk who stay a bit longer. And people love it. I personally have a number of patients who absolutely love that same day surgery and all the care that's given after. So you can see how care is transforming. It's going to be relevant to this big expansion because you can see what's going to happen in the future, not just with us at Lakeridge, but in terms of healthcare delivery and how the focus will change. Next slide. Level 3 trauma designation. So we already have, we're one of a small number of institutions that's been giving this designation. A level 1 would be like Sunnybrook or St. Mike's. What this does is it gives us extra funding to focus on and make sure that we have a really strong standardized approach to trauma. The types of trauma we'll be doing won't really change, but we'll be well organized with a trauma director and some data, and we'll be well connected to the trauma network. Our intention, as you know, is we have the Bowmanville expansion, which is critical, but we also have the goal of building a new hospital, a tertiary care hospital in Durham. It's out, it's at least a decade out, but it's important. And part of that is envisions a major trauma center in that hospital. So next slide. I think this is just to reflect this award. I just want to speak about the teams at Lakeridge. Kudos to this team for their award. We have a ton of amazing teams and people who are really committed at Lakeridge, and they're the backbone of the care we deliver. Last slide is just to make sure you all know you're invited to Lakeridge Health's annual general meeting, which is on Monday, 6 o'clock. So please, if you have the time, join us at the meeting. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. That was, really enlightening. I like the, a lot of talk there about teamwork, right? That's what it's all about. We're all part of that team, right? And making this thing go forward and getting things rolling and remembering the diversity piece, the inclusion piece, in everything that we do, right? Next up, we have the Foundation's Chief Executive Officer, Frank Giurisano. Frank?
Thanks, Joe. Is anyone still cool or warm? I'll try and keep this as brief. So anyway, as our community moves ever so carefully to open for business, organize in-person events, and return to normal life in a post-COVID world, the need for our foundation to embrace the new world is critical. As we deal with the continuous concerns of another virus, as Dr. Stone had mentioned, we'll wait till September to see, labor shortages, world wars, rising gas prices, and a general feeling of uncertainty. The one constant factor that we can embrace is our sense of community, our willingness as Canadians to help each other, our commitment to build a better place for our families to live a healthy lifestyle. To ensure that healthy lifestyle, we need a well-funded hospital system under Lakeridge Health. One system, best health. Before I provide you with an overview of the Foundation's highlights for the fiscal year of 21-22, I'd like to acknowledge the hardworking physicians, medical staff, and non-medical staff of our Lakeridge Health Bowmanville Hospital. Their dedication to the community and the residents of Durham is unwavering. Each and every one of them work hard, day in and day out, to provide the best care, making it extremely easy for us to do our job, to raise the necessary funds for our health care system. So please, a big round of applause to our physicians and staff at Bowmanville. Well, another year has passed, And today, on the day of our annual general meeting, a lot of exciting opportunities have presented themselves. As well, a lot of things have happened this past year that we can all be proud of together. As Chris mentioned, we completed our first year of our new strategic plan, Strong, Responsive, Together. We developed a brand new fundraising plan to support that strategic plan, a funding plan that will build a foundation of staff and volunteers that will work to not only raise the remaining funds for our campaign, but will ensure a sustainable fundraising program built on a loyal staff, volunteer-driven model. The We Care We Can campaign, under the leadership of our Chair, Kirk Kemp, continues to move forward successfully. Hope nobody's hurt. We hear all that? We secured an anonymous $1 million gift this year, as well as a up to $250,000 gift contribution from our local Canadian Tire that we're going to celebrate later on. Yay, hey, Canadian Tire. Round of applause for them, please. And we continue to see gifts from our campaign come into our office. Now is the time to donate. Now is the time to support the campaign, so please don't wait. Call our campaign office. We organized yet another virtual experience, the Great Escape, sorry. We took guests through an adventure of food, wine, and entertainment from the very talented Chantal Kreviazik, and a silent auction online took place. This was all in support of our campaign and the State of the Heart Equipment fundraiser. We had amazing third-party events by some of our community partners, like the Bowmanville Rotary Club, who organized a charity golf tournament and barbecue. We celebrated with the members of our J.W. Alexander Starlight Society, which is our planned giving program, by the way. It was a virtual event that included a delicious at-home food and wine tasting session. We hosted our 12 Days of Giving, where we featured 12 wonderful charitable organizations doing great work across Clarington. And we launched the Realtors for Healthcare under the leadership of one of our cabinet members, Tyler Smith. So big round of applause to the third-party event organizers. We had a great year in committee recruitment this year. I mean, given the pandemic, we did a wonderful job. So we welcomed Vanessa Soysak, I think I said her name wrong, as our Chair of Marketing and Communications, as well as additional members like Kevin Brady, Lauren Bull, and Ordzella Quidusi. So big round of applause for that committee. We welcomed Absar Bag to our We Care We Can campaign cabinet. Thank you, Absar. Christy Bartram to our Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee. I think I saw Christy. Christy, yes, she's got her mask on. Hey, Christy. And then Amanda Laird to our Governance Committee, who's not here, but a round of applause to Amanda. And finally, we welcome the great Tanya Sanza as chair of our We Care, We Can Awareness Month that launched a few weeks ago. I hope you're following us on social media. We are all over this month. So to her team and everybody, thank you very much. I don't see Tanya. Is she? There she is, right on. So throughout all these events, virtual or in person, we managed to persevere. We managed to stay on the right track. Foundation staff and volunteers remained resilient while working through a pandemic. They pushed through and raised the funds needed to ensure the best health care possible. At this point, I would like to acknowledge the hard work of our board members, our committee volunteers, and our staff. Together, we've achieved great things. The best years are still ahead. We will, together, complete the campaign and expand our hospital. Thank you. Next, as though we welcome new volunteers and staff, I'd like to say goodbye and acknowledge the contributions of two very strong community leaders and major contributors to our foundation, Chris Coy and Fiona Hodgson. So both joined our board about 6 years ago. Both contributed equally to the success of our foundation. Chris has chaired the foundation for the last 6 years and has managed to keep discussions at the board table focused, balanced, and collaborative. She's not only contributed financially to the foundation with her husband, Art, I learned that, with a major pledge to the campaign, she's contributed with her time. Her executive leadership was very much appreciated by many of us, and I personally will miss her guidance and steady approach to any decision made by the group. Chris, thank you. Fiona has been with the foundation the past 6 years and has served in the capacity of, get this, Chair of Governance, Secretary, and Vice Chair in 6 years. Fiona led the change in revamping our policies related to human resources, has been a strong advocate for procedure and order. Her attention to detail and her ability to focus on key details that make us great will most definitely be missed. I have personally appreciated her commitment and her willingness to support the foundation. Fiona has not only supported the foundation with a multi-year pledge to the campaign, she has given of her time wholeheartedly. We owe both Chris and Fiona much appreciation for their commitment, for their ability to help lead and transform the foundation into a leading organization. Thank you both very much for your contributions. Finally, as I get closer to ending my remarks today, I want to stress to our community that our campaign is at a critical point. As plans for the redevelopment and expansion begin to crystallize, and as Adrian Foster said earlier, or His Worship Mayor Foster said earlier, all levels of government have contributed to the campaign. It is up to us as a community to bring the campaign home. The groundbreaking is scheduled for the spring of 2025, and as such, it is vital we move to support the campaign, support our foundation, and help us get closer to opening the doors. I will end on a final note and a quote from Socrates, who said, "The secret to change is to focus all your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new." We at Bowmanville Hospital Foundation have done that. You, as our donors and supporters, have embraced that change. Our job is not yet done. Together, we will continue to strive for positive change. We will continue to strive for an inclusive and welcoming environment. Together, we will redevelop and expand our hospital and build a sustainable fundraising program to support healthcare and Lakeridge for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Great news all around, and I feel the, I just feel the vibe here. It's really good. It's really positive, and we got some good things happening here, and a commitment from a lot of people to make it work. So yeah, thank you for all you do, and thank you to everybody here. It makes sense that with the AGM's theme being on the right track, we would have a chance to talk to somebody who is really making a name for herself in the world of racing. A Clarington native, Demi Chalkias, a race car driver. Come on up here, Demi.
There aren't a lot of us. At least not yet. Earning this seat hasn't come easy. We've had to race harder, brake later, drive like second place was never an option. In this sport, speed is the one thing they can't question. So put your foot down and let the track, the fans, and any skeptics know who you are and why you're here. When you're ready to join us, we'll be here. Ladies, start your engines.
So yeah, on the right track is definitely a fantastic hashtag for what I'm doing here. But hello, my name is Demi Chalkias. I am a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm a girlfriend, and I'm also a race car driver. I'm here today mostly because of the race car thing, but I feel like the rest is equally as important to note. I sometimes struggle with the thought of being given a platform to share my story because I often feel like I haven't done anything life-changing. But I realized through my journey that sometimes it's simply just a story of one's perseverance that can inspire change or inspire others. I have learned that it's not always achieving the highest award or winning the biggest race possible to be a source of inspiration for others. Sometimes it's just about showing up and being committed. The small yet personally major wins are sometimes more than enough for an inspiring story. I'm happy to be here today so that I can share my story with all of you and hopefully inspire you to look for those small wins within your own stories. So, on to my story. I grew up in the country on the outskirts of Stouffville. I grew up in the country with no internet or cable, but I like sports, being outside, hanging out with friends, and on occasion, popping wheelies with our family's tractor. My hobbies included stacking wood, cutting grass, flipping golf carts, and daring my sisters to put helmets on so that we could shoot each other with BB guns, safely, of course. That was a normal day for us growing up. Looking back on it now, it was a little bit removed from the norm. I was always a very imaginative kid, and I carried this great belief that I could accomplish anything I put my mind to. And with a creative mind and a whole whack of confidence, life can get pretty interesting, especially in the times when I may have had a little bit too much confidence in myself. When I was in school, sports were my main passion, with triathlons being my main focus. I pictured myself eventually going into the Olympics, but that dream was cut short through a devastating hip injury. I came to realize in hindsight that I had become addicted to training for triathlons. I so desperately wanted to be the best. I would train 6 times a day with different coaches, not telling any of them what I had done prior or what I was about to do so that they wouldn't tell me to slow down or to take a practice off. Needless to say, I ran my body into the ground. I had so many warning signs that I needed to take a break, but I neglected all of that with my dream of being the best, and I had neglected my own health in that process. By the age of 16, I was struggling to walk upstairs by the end of the day. I was in and out of the hospital getting tests done, getting needles done, and I was receiving cortisone shots into my hip every 6 months. After going through a few surgeons, I was eventually told that I had torn my cartilage and had done so much damage that they would have to shave my femur bone down in order to get me back up and running to be a competitive athlete again. But there was no guarantee that the bone would grow back smoothly or not, so I may have had issues with my hip my whole life. I had felt like my whole world was stripped from underneath me. Triathlons were my life. I had dedicated so much of my time and energy into my training, thinking that it was going to make me the best. And in reality, it's what forced me to stop. What I had viewed as my dedication to the sport was the single thing that had stripped it away from me. If I wasn't a triathlete, who was I? If I wasn't training all day, what was I going to do? When people asked me about myself, how do I identify? I felt alone and confused. The emotional pain far outweighed the physical pain of my injury. I had found myself so far from where I wanted to be, I wasn't sure how I was going to move forward. So after sulking in my own misery and feeling sorry for myself, I finally said, Demi, you can either sit here and cry, or you can find a sport that you can do. And so I thought of all the sports that didn't utilize my hip, and that's when I discovered go-karting. So at this point, I had also entered college, and I was studying fitness and health in Durham College here in Oshawa. I enjoyed my studies, but I never really felt like there was a career in that field that I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. Once I graduated college, I bridged into UOIT, and I started taking pre-med. I thought perhaps the challenge of becoming a medical professional would help me be motivated and excited about being in school, but it just wasn't for me. I felt lost and confused with what I wanted to do in my life. Around this time, I had an opportunity to drive a race car on a racetrack here in Bowmanville, which is now my hometown. My dad raced cars when I was little, and after taking a break, he got back into it as an instructor. I would go to the track with him just to hang out and to help out with the events. After banking many volunteer hours, the club offered me a free performance driving class as a thank you. My dad was generous enough to give me a Subaru STI fully prepped track car. And so just to give you guys some insight onto this, or some perspective, if you will, he literally handed over a 600 horsepower all-wheel drive Subaru Monster to a kid who desperately needed some enthusiasm in life. To say I was hooked was definitely an understatement. I remember going back to school in September and just constantly kept thinking about the racetrack and trying to figure out how I could get back into a race car. That experience sparked a passion in me that I never knew existed. It was like nothing I had ever felt, even with triathlons. I was like, so you're telling me I can be this physically and mentally stimulated and I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. to run half a marathon or bike 100 kilometers? I'm so in. When I was in class at school, I was watching onboard footage from races, and when I was supposed to be studying, I was helping my engineering buddies build a Subaru track car on their driveway. It was the moment when I was outside my professor's office, begging him to up my grade by 2% so that I could pass, when I kind of realized, what am I even doing here? I remember sitting on the ground feeling defeated after my professor had shut me down, thinking about my life, and all I could think about was racing. So I said to myself, if not now, when? I proceeded to collect myself and made the decision that I was not going to be returning to school to finish my degree. I didn't take for granted that I was able to go to university. I understood the sacrifices that my parents made and how lucky I was to be receiving further education. But I felt deep in my gut that I just wasn't supposed to be there. I had this feeling that I was supposed to pursue racing. I had no idea what I was going to tell my family, where to start, or how to become a race car driver. But all I did know was that I needed money and I needed a race car to start, so I did exactly that. I picked up as many jobs as I could physically work. I served breakfast in the morning from 6 o'clock a.m. until 3 p.m., and then I would change outfits and hop over to a dinner restaurant and serve from 5 p.m. to roughly 12 a.m. or later, depending on how long our guest wanted to stay. I did that 7 days a week. And for however long my eyes would stay open for after I got home, I would work on sponsorship proposals. Caffeine was definitely my best friend. Flash forward a year after dropping out, I had my very own 1997 BMW E36 race car that I called Frankie and entered my first race on May 3rd of 2015. I remember showing up to grid where they prepare all of the cars before the race, and I was feeling nervous but oddly calm. I went out that race and I battled my heart out. I didn't care that it was my first race, nor did I care that I was the only female there. I just wanted to win. The green flag dropped and we were off. The engines of the field roaring was the most exhilarating experience I had ever felt. We dove into the first corner with all of the cars inches away from mine as we began our battle. I remember having to consciously control my breathing because it was so exciting. I didn't care what it took. I wanted to pass whoever was in front of me. After a few laps in, I was out there battling for first. I ended up finishing second after a very hard battle. I remember standing on the podium later that day, just feeling this overwhelming sense of I knew it. I knew I was supposed to be here. I eventually got out of the restaurant business and started selling cars. My body and well-being definitely needed a break from serving morning till night. I did well in sales and moved my way up to a business office as a business manager. I was still actively competing and pursuing my racing career at this point, but the dealership industry made it very difficult. If anyone knows the dealership industry, you know that Saturday are the holy grail of days for sales, and so I was never allowed to take one off. With that, I was forced to start from the back of the grid every Sunday. I was constantly having to battle my way up from dead last and would manage a top 5 finish at best, but I knew I could win a championship if I just had a fair chance to qualify. It was October of 2017 when I was sitting at my desk after a disappointing racing season when I decided I was going to take another leap of faith to pursue my racing career. My business manager position had allowed me to put aside a good chunk of income. During this time, I was able to save enough money where I felt comfortable quitting my job and getting a part-time job so that I could focus more on my racing career. I did exactly that. I told myself I just want to commit 100% to racing, even just for a year, and then I can go back to a normal job. I wanted to prove to myself that I could take home a championship. The same words, if not now, when, popped into my head, and that same day I resigned. I spent the whole off-season studying my craft and focusing on improving. I came into my 2018 season and won almost every race and took home the championship. It was that year where I started getting discovered by the right people. I started getting asked to work programs for manufacturers as a professional performance driver and eventually transitioned into doing that full-time. I can say from then I won many more races and took home the 2020 Pirelli GT3 Sprint Championship and was the first female to do so. I was also featured in a full-length documentary coming out in September, highlighting 3 Canadian female race car drivers that came together to compete in a 3-hour endurance race in California with a Mercedes-AMG GT4. During this opportunity, I was, however, diagnosed with TGCT. TGCT is tenosynovial giant cell tumor, and it's a rare disease that causes locally aggressive tumors in your joints. Mine was located in my left knee. I went through the Lake Ridge Hospital system to get diagnosed and to have my surgery. It was because of the incredible staff of Lake Ridge Hospital Systems that I got myself properly diagnosed and had my surgery performed. This diagnosis came roughly a month before I was to compete in my 3-hour endurance race in California. This was probably the biggest opportunity of my racing career, and I wasn't going to let a surgery stop me from competing. The surgery was more invasive than I had expected, and I was told that my recovery was going to be 12 weeks. I refused to believe that that was going to be my reality. I told the medical team, I'll be racing in a month. Right after surgery, I started physio. I started with just moving my foot up and down. I later advanced to attempting to stand up with bearing weight on my left leg, and soon after attempted walking with no crutches. I advanced to 2-hour physio sessions in person. As soon as I started being able to squat my body weight, I knew it was game over. I was going to race and nobody was going to stop me. I remember heading down to the race in California, trying to show no signs of weakness. I did my best to walk without limping, and when anyone asked, Demi, how are you doing? I said, great, never been better. I went out there and owned my opportunity and showed the race team and the film crew what I was able to do behind the wheel of a professional race car. I was the fastest driver they chose. It felt great to be able to accomplish my goal of getting back into a race car and persevere through my surgery process. I hope that my story can serve to inspire others to keep pushing to achieve whatever goals they have. My journey from there has just been insane. I'm currently training to race a Mercedes-AMG GT4 for a full season in 2023 with JMF Motorsports here in Canada, and I'll be leaving for Belgium in a couple of weeks to compete with a team in a 25-hour race at Spa. Getting to this point in my story was not easy, and looking back in hindsight, it seems surreal to be where I am today. I'm grateful for all of the opportunities I have had through my racing career, and owe a thank you to everyone who has helped me get to where I am today. I think the most important piece to take away from my story is to find a passion and chase it. So I will leave you guys with a question for tonight. If not now, when? Thank you.
That was fantastic, Demi. I mean, what a great example you are, dedication, perseverance, and you know, I got a feeling you tell Demi Chalkias that she can't do something and then get the heck out of the way. Because here we go. And, you know, it's amazing. You talked about you were the top qualifier. We had a conversation earlier. I know you were you're qualified top 4, first in your class. Of course, and your qualifying time wasn't used because of some technical issues. But, you know, you're really a superstar in the making. And it's all about, you know, and opportunity, when that perseverance, that dedication, that belief in yourself, you know, belief in yourself, you know, combines with the opportunities, that's when we have the success. And you're a great success story. You're a great inspiration for a young girl who wants to do something with her life, but you're a great inspiration for all of us. And you certainly, in my opinion, are definitely on the right track. Thank you so much. Let's hear it once again for Demi. At this point, I'm going to ask Kirk Kemp to take the stage here for a campaign update and the Canadian Tire recognition. Kirk, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Joe. Demi, that was pretty impressive. When your racing career is done in 30 or 40 years, you need to go around to schools and talk to young people and motivate them, because you're a living and breathing person that won't give up and loves a challenge, and we need more of you around, and God bless you for what you're doing and your perseverance. Here comes the next Danica Patrick. One thing, Joe, and his excitement of talking about his podcast with Reggie Leach, he left out a real special guest he's got in 8 weeks. And a lot of you know him. Frank Cherizano used to be a lightweight professional boxer, and he's on Joe's podcast in about 8 weeks. And that was an earlier career for Frank. So I look forward to that podcast with you and Frank, Joe. Well, for sure, the weather outside and kind of inside here kind of symbolizes where we're at in the campaign. Things are starting to heat up. And it's been a tough go for the last couple years. As we all know, it's been a real struggle for businesses, families, communities, provinces, countries. And it shows you that I think the human race can persevere, and Demi's a shining example of that. But it also shows us what a great community we have here in Clarington. And although we've been very cognizant of people, family situations and their businesses when we've been nurturing donations for the campaign, we can see the change. People are starting to put COVID-19 behind us and behind them. And we have a great team out there that are cultivating potential donors. And we're getting some great feedback now that people are more interested in having a chat with us. We've got quite a few face-to-face meetings. It's always important if you're trying to get somebody to dig in their pocket for a sizable donation. It's always so important to get across from them and be able to discuss what we're trying to do at Lake Ridge Health and what we need them to do for us. And because it is a privilege to get somebody to donate. It's their hard-earned dollars, and we've been very successful, and we're very confident in going forward that we're going to meet and exceed our targets, and we're excited about it. It seems like it's been a long time, but we'll blink and 2025 will be here. I'm confident that that date will not be pushed back and may be pushed forward because we're fortunate to have a returning government from the last election. Forget about the political part of it. A returning government can hit the road running. They don't have to get used to what's going on. So we have a local member. We actually are lucky. We have two right here that kind of represent Clarington. And so they're going to be great advocates to keep pushing this hospital expansion and revitalization forward. And so we're excited to move forward with this project. And as Mayor Foster said earlier, we had a huge lift in the start of the campaign from the municipality of Clarington giving us $5 million. It was awesome. It was a unanimous vote. Doesn't happen a lot on a council meeting, but this one did. And that inspired the region to step up with what the mayor said was their biggest donation. And that also inspires people to go, hey, if the municipality and the region's doing it, well, maybe I should step up. So it's a whole team approach. If the local people are stepping up, the local and regional governments say it's our turn to, we need to help too. And so when the region and local governments help, it sort of inspires the local people to say, hey, I need to help too. And one of those organizations that has really stepped up in a huge way is our local Canadian Tire store, owned by David and Mara Urso. Unfortunately, they can't be here today, but they've made a strong commitment. That's what I love about the Canadian Tires. They're owned by people that live in the community, so they have that community spirit. And their huge donation of $250,000 over several years is as a testimony that they're Clarington people and they want to help our community. And we're happy to have, I think Patty Hampson's here. I'd love to call her up, and Frank and Chris, maybe you can join us, and we'll have a check presentation and a couple photos, and just to we can acknowledge this tremendous donation on behalf of the people, David and Mara Urso at the Canadian Tire store. Yeah, let's put that up.
That concludes our formal presentation here for Bowmanville Hospital Foundation's 2021-22 fiscal year annual general meeting. I want to thank once again Chris Coy, Frank Chersano, Peter Hobb, Mayor Foster, Dr. Stone, Kirk Kemp, Demi Chalkias, and everybody else who's pitched in to make this all happen. That pretty much wraps up the AGM for this year, and looking forward to coming back next year and having some more great news. I mean, congratulations, Clarington, doing a fantastic job. Congratulations to the board, awesome job. And thank you once again, Demi. That was spectacular. It really was. So good luck. We'll all be following you, okay? She's going to be on the show, by the way. All right, thank you.